All right, welcome back. And it's another week. Today, we're going to be talking about courage over perfectionism and how to overcome perfectionism to become an adaptive business leader. So, welcome back. My name is Reggie. I'm the founder of Fit for Freelance, where I build adaptive business leaders through compassionate health coaching. I come to you live every Monday, 8:30 on YouTube and Facebook to help build adaptive business leaders. So if you like this, hit it. Subscribe, tell a friend, because we're trying to make a big difference in helping people lead a healthy, fulfilling life for their dreams. So today's topic is perfectionism. We're going to go over what you need, 3 signs that you're kind of struggling with it, what it means, and how you can use confidence, realistic focus, and accountability to overcome it. So I'll start out with saying that perfectionism, if you know you're struggling with this, just go ahead and leave a comment on that from the jump, because it is a challenge for a lot of people who want to make sure things are going well, but sometimes it can go too far, right? So we break it down. What I've been doing in my research, I always kind of look around the internet to see what I can learn from the experts in the topic, and I condense it, and then I bring it to you, and I apply it to my coaching. All right, so the first one, adaptive versus maladaptive, is how they've kind of broken it down. So there's a spectrum of perfectionism, right? So you're adaptive. It helps you overcome challenges. It keeps you motivated. And it's similar to that like stress spectrum too, right? If you are able to use that in a good way, that's adaptive. But if it keeps you from starting, or if it keeps you stuck casually implementing things, or it makes you procrastinate a lot, or you spend a ton of time on tiny details with no real margin of improvement, right? No noticeable difference. And you waste time like that, that's the maladaptive kind. So there's adaptive and maladaptive. Keep that in mind. See where you fall along that spectrum. And then it kind of fluctuates in different moments, right? So 3 sides need to overcome perfectionism, right? So if you have these three things happening, if you say these a lot, even if you don't identify as a perfectionist, you might have some challenges with that, right? So the first one, let me know if you do either, is judging others harshly. So these signs that you need to overcome perfectionism are just little things that you might see yourself doing that can contribute to your own, self-judgment and self-criticism, or things that, cause other people around you, sometimes the people that you care about, even to have some perfectionistic tendencies, or be afraid to start something that is probably pretty important to them. So judging others harshly, right? When someone does something you would never do, or if they're wearing something that you would never put on, any of that kind of stuff. Bad drivers is a great example, right? If you have persistent road rage, anything that leads you to treat others outside of compassion, or consider them inferior to you, that's going to count as a sign that you may need to start practicing a little more compassion and overcome your own perfectionism, right? Because as we treat others, we tend to treat ourselves, right? Next, we have self-talk when something goes wrong. You might say stuff like, I'm no good at this, or I can't do that. What makes me think I can do that? I have no experience with this. Someone's going to be better at this than I am. I've made mistakes in the past I can't recover from, all this stuff, right? All this self-talk, or in an instant where maybe you just made a simple mistake, you drop something like, oh, I'm so stupid, right? Pay attention to those, because that is a sign that you could have some challenges with perfectionism. And another one that keeps a lot of people casually implementing is, I'll do it when blank. And that's like when all the conditions are perfect, right? If I could just have this, then that. If I just had more money, I would do this. If I had more time, I would do this. If I had more resources or a better opportunity, then I would do that, right? And so you make everything a condition, or a lot of things conditions, and that is another sign that you may be stuck casually implementing from perfectionism, right? And so that happens sometimes. You want to be very mindful of that. And really, probably the biggest takeaway from this today is putting a note on that perfectionism is fear, right? I have a blog post, fitforfreelance.com/fear, where I talk about the 2 kinds of fear that can be holding you back: your fear of rejection and your fear of failure, right? So anytime you're getting very meticulous about details that might not matter, maybe subconsciously, right? I can't tell you what's going on in your head, but a lot of times people think it's because they aren't good enough on their own, and their self-worth is closely connected to the outcome of their work, right? So you're trying to meticulously manage everything in that process to make sure that it reflects perfectly on you, and that can hold you back. So leave a comment if you have an example of that, or if you know what I'm talking about. So one thing that I kind of struggle with perfectionism was these YouTube videos. When I was starting, I recorded it, and then I had a script, and I had to read the script perfectly. And if I didn't, then I would do like 50 takes of the same thing, and it would just zap all my energy. It was terrible, right? And then I had to edit it. It took me a minute. And then I stopped making videos. I was like, well, I'm not doing all that. It's terrible. But I need to make these videos to help you reach your goals, right? And then that helps me reach my goals when I want to, like, improve the quality of life for a bunch of people, right? So what I decided to do was go live and found a way to work around it and become an adaptive business leader. And so when you see me, I am showing you how you can overcome perfectionism in your own life, with or without coaching. I'm just, being an example, lighting the way. But perfectionism is fear, is a symptom of fear, is an effective fear. Someone I even heard on a podcast, it's the Carrot Cast I listened to. It's a real estate marketing podcast. This guy went kind of stronger than I would. He said that perfectionism is actually the ultimate showing of cowardice. And I was like, whoa, you're not wrong. So, and a lot of time, if you are being a perfectionist, it's because you have focused so much on yourself. There's an opportunity, right? I'm not calling you out if this is you, but if you feel called out, think about that, right? You have focused so much on yourself and your own image through your work that you have disconnected, or you haven't yet connected what you're doing to a bigger vision, or having a focus, or, a practice to doing that thing that you want to do. So we go over some tips right here. I have a quote. I like this quote. It says, I can find it here. This is Wayne Gretzky. Your boy, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So anytime you're learning a new skill or you're practicing something new, you're not going to be very good at when you first start. Sometimes people get stuck casually implementing or procrastinating. They're like, yeah, well, you want the very first time to go perfect, and it doesn't work like that ever, right? And so you see that in entrepreneurship or in health space, the people who are seeing success in these areas are the people who have consistently run into those typical roadblocks and continue to find ways to work around it, right? It's that Edison quote, like, I found 1,000 ways that would not work, kind of thing. And you just keep tweaking the process through practice to reach the target. So that Gretzky quote is huge. Let me show you the guilt-free framework, right? So anytime you are talking about perfectionism, a lot of times that is related to that confidence in that top left. Realistic focus and accountability can help. You need all three of these to be an adaptive business leader. If you have any one of these missing, you're going to get stuck doubting things, wondering if you're worth it, hesitating, just not really going for the things you want to do. And to that, right? So let me go back to the steps. Confidence and self-compassion. So this is how you become an adaptive business leader. You overcome your perfectionism and you do your best, right? You take ownership of your path to freedom and fitness and reaching your goals. So confidence and self-compassion. You want to trust that you'll adapt if you make a mistake. And that's a big one. A lot of people, or sometimes when this happens, you get stuck casually implementing, it's because you somehow imagine that you will be exiled from society, or not good enough, or destroyed, or something in your head probably plays into this effect that you aren't good enough if everything doesn't go perfectly, right? So when you have that confidence and self-compassion, then you'll know that you could always kind of recover, even if it doesn't go well, right? Like, you can think of your worst case scenario as probably not that bad. Other people are probably already living in that condition, right? So maybe it's not ideal that you make that all the time, but knowing you can recover from that, that's a huge thing. And that's how that will show up in your life, right? So if you were having those first three problems, instead of judging others, you could say things to yourself like, that's unfortunate they tried their best. That's the best they can do in that situation. I don't know what their perspective is like, so it's not really fair for me to judge that kind of thing. And extending that compassion, that forgiveness for others really can kind of turn the light on yourself. Or vice versa, if you start with self-compassion, then you'll have extra leverage to lend that compassion to others, because life is pretty challenging, right? And we're all doing things and trying out new ventures, and just trying to make it, at least, and not even trying to thrive, right? So giving people that grace and self-compassion and having that for yourself is going to be a huge part of, living a guilt-free life. So another one here is, instead of self-criticizing, saying, oh, how would I think I can do that? Or I don't have the resources, right? Point out that you're learning and practicing this skill, right? So instead of, I'm not very good at something, just acknowledge that, maybe you're not good at it, but you're practicing it or you're learning it. And the key thing when you're into these situations is that you're in practice, right? You are continuing to develop that skill. Every time you try to do something, it's going to be a little bit better than the previous time you tried it, right? So that goes for like your hobbies, if you're building stuff, building business, working on your parenting skills, calligraphy, something I'm into, salsa, all those little things. Be like, that wasn't very good, but I'm learning and I'm practicing better. So leave a comment if that's resonating, and we're gonna keep it going because I'm feeling pretty good about this episode right now. The realistic focus, having better goals, recognizing it's not all going to go perfect the first time, right? So some people do have that unrealistic vision that you're just gonna come out and slam dunk it immediately. You're gonna, hit the target every time you do it from the very first time. And sometimes you do find things that you're good at immediately, or you have experience in things that you're really strong in. And so you can pick up those skills readily. But a lot of things, especially if it's something that you find worthwhile, it's not going to come to you easy. So you have to have realistic focus and taking that first step. And so instead of thinking, if everything was perfect, if I had the right conditions, if I had enough money, more time, more resources, all that stuff, you ask yourself, how can I, right? You put the how can I, and you put yourself in a situation to ask better questions so you can actually start to look for the solution, right? So how can I create that next step for success? The story for that is, when you're walking towards a staircase, right? Maybe it's a dark staircase, and you can't see the whole thing all the way up. You can only see the first few steps. You have to take those first few steps in order to be on your way in that goal, right? And then the rest will appear. Another example of this has happened to me. This happens to most entrepreneurs when they're starting up. So pay attention here. I developed a whole program and course for coaching when I started. Before I even launched my business, I spent months getting everything perfect and well designed, and then nobody used it, nobody bought it, and it felt a huge waste of time. It's because I did not even know what I didn't know about the situation. And I know this happens to a lot of people who are starting something up, who are recovering perfectionists, right? Where you think all right, this has to be perfect the very first time. And then when you actually try and launch it, you missed it completely, right? But you get feedback. And sometimes that's the important part, is taking that first step so you can get feedback on how future steps are going. The picture will be more clear as you start to walk into a direction that you're going. You can see the staircase. All right. I trust that makes sense. So something we work on with the guilt-free framework, guilt-free game plan process, vision, focus, and practice, right? So once you have a more clear vision, what you're trying to do, you're targeting, and you have focus, you can pick the right targets for that. So that's something that I get really excited about with the guilt-free game plan, because we break that down for you so you know exactly what you need to do for your next step, or at least your next step to try. And then we make adjustments and we adapt. It's a core value of being an adaptive fit business leader, right? So yeah, hope you're still with me. The next step here, have courage. Right. So anytime you're talking about overcoming fear, it's going to take courage. And you have to know that it's worth the attempt. And a worthwhile life, right? If you have courage to overcome that fear, that's what makes a difference. That's what keeps you from procrastinating, keeps you from being a stuck casual implementer, and keeps you making steps, incremental steps, and then tons of adjustments towards your goal. So if you're being ambitious, you got to be about it, right? You have to have courage to take that. So I encourage you to have that courage. And I hope I'm lighting that path up for you. All right. So the next step here is accountability. You want to have a support system while you develop confidence, right? So we do have a lot of habits that we've learned either from school age, right? Where you had to get straight A's or you had to do all this or you suck at school or whatever, right? Maybe your parents were strict in some senses in some places, right? So you always felt like you had to live up to something that wasn't in your wheelhouse, right? And that puts extra pressure on you. And sometimes, right, there's adaptive, there's maladaptive. Sometimes that negative self-talk comes from those formative experiences, right? So we want to have accountability, someone you can count on, someone you know who can give you that little bit of support, positive feedback, tells you, hey, these are some things you might want to look out for. Maybe you want a guilt-free coach in your corner for that. Having a group, anything like that is going to help you with that accountability, building your process for ownership while you develop that confidence and self-compassion. All right. And then finally, maybe not so finally, but close to the end here, I have a quote. Oh, doing too much over here. Hold up. Let me get that logo off for a second. Instead of asking what will it cost if it doesn't work out, what is the cost of being in the exact same place 1 year from now? And that's such an important question. I saw that on one of my entrepreneur coaches that I follow, and that's just huge. So take a moment to think about that. A lot of people will say, I can't do that now, so go back to like, how can I do it? Because if you don't do anything and you are not on track towards your goals, maybe you are gaining weight or you are like stuck in something that you don't want to do, like most days of the week, anything like that, right? And you don't change that, you're going to stay on that same path. You have to invest energy and resources or something, get support, build your confidence, realistic focus, and accountability to get on track towards what you want. Because if you don't, you're going to be on the same path. And it's up to you if that's your path to freedom and fitness, right? So keep that in mind. And if you want a little more support, I do have this bodyweight workout game plan. It's available at fitforfreelance.com/bodyweight. I've got a group online, Scale Smashers, that you'll be able to find. Hold on, let me put my social media stuff back up there. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and would love to help you. What's one habit that you're ready to change? You can leave a comment, something that you are no longer going to be a perfectionist about, something you're ready to take those next steps. I hope today was your big day to break out of it. And remember to just do it. Let's get to it. Take those small steps and you can do whatever you want. You just got to be in practice. Okay. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and keep practicing. Bye.